I want to start off with the issue of water resources management and to submit to the ministers that it would be critical to us if we could discuss this and look at it from a regional project standpoint. In Dominica, we have the capacity to export millions of gallons of water each day. And the question is, why should our sister islands not have the capacity or the ability to supply its citizens with 100% of potable water? What we need to address is the issue of transportation. If we could import oil from as far as Nigeria and from Venezuela and from the United States of America, what is preventing us from exporting or transporting water to other islands within the Caribbean region? And I recall some years ago when St. Lucia was hit by the flood, it was difficult to get water to them. You know, and we had to use the Coast Guard, which was not manufactured to transport huge volumes of or weights of that nature to transport water and make several trips to St. Lucia. So I'm putting it to us that we need to seriously look at it. You know, otherwise we're going to have a challenge because you have not only a shortage from natural sources, but you also have a shortage emanating from drought and drought-related activities. So it's important for us to look at this and to look at it from a regional project standpoint. And well, I've said to my friend there, Honourable Marlon Joseph of Antigua, I really wish I could have given Antigua a river, free of charge, you know. Because I know of the challenge that you're going through there, you know. I know of the serious challenge you're going through. And in whatever way we can assist with this, Dominica is more than ready to support not only Antigua, but St. Lucia and other islands with the provision of potable water to your citizens. And for us, this is not really an economic submission. It is one of a principal stance on brotherhood and sisterhood and fraternity. Because all of us have been good to each other over a period of time. And if we're in a position where we can help, we are prepared to help and help in a meaningful and practical manner. On the importance of the environment, I wish for our citizens. I do not get the sense, I get the impression that the governments are way ahead of our citizens in respect to advocating the importance of the environment and issues of climate change than our citizens. And my hope and prayer is that our citizens, the school children, and the wider community can have a better appreciation of the real impact of climate change on our way of life. It is costing us millions of dollars to put in place mitigating mechanisms to combat the effects of climate change. Our coasts are being eroded, our beaches are being eroded, undermining the vital tourism industry in many of our sister countries. Because in some of the countries, the tourists rarely come to enjoy the beach and the sun. And if those beaches are being affected, how are we going to sustain our tourism industry? And I think people have to start appreciating the real danger to our way of life, the impacts and the effects of climate change. And so my hope is that our citizenry can catch up with the leadership of our countries and understand and appreciate the importance of the environment and our case, which we continue to make on the international scene in respect to our response to climate change effects. And I agree with the ministers who've spoken that we must do it together. It makes no sense we all go to all these international conferences and each of us stand and give a speech. I believe that we need to consolidate our notes, consolidate our positions, and let there be one person who could speak. It does not devalue our representation. I think it strengthens our position when we're not only speaking for one member country, but we're speaking for 15, 16, 17 of us as one group. I believe we will get greater attention from this and greater respect, because let's understand it, we are competing with ideologies, we're competing with politics in the respective countries. I'm speaking about the developed countries. We're speaking against much larger populations. I mean, you put all of us in the OECS together, and it is one street in China, or one apartment building. So we have to understand that we're not on equal footing, notwithstanding the fact that in some instances we each have one vote. We have to understand that in the world which we live in, and I believe the lessons in Paris, our experiences and successes in Paris, is testament to the fact that by working together, by consolidating our ideas, we can in fact be listened to, and we can be respected, and we can be reacted to in a positive way to our lasting benefit. So I agree that we have to work together and put forward a regional front in respect to our advocacy on the international scene. In respect to the Green Climate Funds and other funding sources related to mitigation and environmental issues, I have made my views on these matters very clear publicly, and regionally, internationally, and also nationally, that there must be a more robust system of accessing those funds. And when those funds are accessed, there must be an even more robust mechanism to draw down on those resources. Because if we're talking about climate change, and let's understand it, the impact of climate change is going to be even increased on us in the region. We have to prepare ourselves for every year, and we're hoping and praying that it doesn't happen. But we have to be prepared in the event that it happens. And to respond to the impacts of climate change and climate change related activities, you need a lot of resources. We have issues of debt and our debt to GDP, and there are benchmarks placed on us in achieving certain targets and goals in respect to your debt to GDP. And in some countries, as a matter of fact, in all our countries in the OECS, there's not much fiscal space to borrow, and to borrow at commercial rates. Some of us have IMF programs, and there's certain restrictions on our ability to borrow. My friend here from Grenada, I went out in 2004, and we're still rebuilding. We're still raising funds to rebuild post-Ivan. We have done a lot of work in Grenada, we admit. But we still have to respond to the impacts. Each of us, St. Lucia, Grenada, Montserrat, Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Kitts and Nevis, all of us have been impacted by storms many years ago, but we are still funding the reconstruction. And in many instances, these are resources earmarked for improvements in health, earmarked for improvements, further improvements in infrastructure to attract foreign direct investments. But you now have to spend these monies to reconstruct that which you built maybe a year or 2 years or 3 years before. And so I believe that the development world need to look at what the IMF has done in respect to its rapid disbursements of funds. Here it is the IMF that is strongly inclined to fiscal responsibility and fiscal prudence and all of the wonderful things that are important to our economies. But with a simple letter from the Minister of Finance, in a matter of days, the loan funds are in our bank at the central bank. And in a matter of days, the government has access to the funds to spend and to respond to certain challenges. A classic case, for example, after Tropical Storm Erica. Days after the storm, I wrote to the IMF requesting a $10 billion US loan. And in less than 7 days, the monies were in our account at the central bank. And we have been able to use those funds to respond in a practical and tangible way to the impact of Tropical Storm Erica. And I am not advocating to setting aside the good governance principles. We have to maintain the issue of transparency and accountability. But we have to also understand that the longer we wait to respond to the impacts of climate change and environmental concerns, is the worse it is getting for us. It is the worst it's getting for us, and I know that there's a fight among the development world on who should manage the funds and who should the funds go through and so forth. While all of these arguments are taking place, our people are being impacted. There are islands in the world that are that are on the threshold of disappearing. The countries, because of climate environmental issues, poverty is rising. Homelessness is increasing. Growth prospects are something of the distant future. And therefore, we have to send a clear message to the international community that time waiteth for no man. And therefore, the signing of the agreement, the Paris Agreement, our hope and prayer is that we can see a fast and efficient disbursement of the funds and access to the funds to respond to our challenges. Because we're going to run the risk of every financial year, we have to put this sum in succeeding financial year with no progress. And the Minister of Finance has to read the budget address and say, you know, we have had some delays and therefore hoping that this year and then 5 years down the road, 6 years down the road, it keeps reappearing on the estimates and creates some difficulties for the government and for the people of our countries. I want to say, Dr. Jones, that I believe that the Commission has a critical role to play, particularly with regards to ocean research governance. We are in the Caribbean, but we also have the presence of Europe in the Caribbean by virtue of the French departments of Martinique and Guadeloupe. And the issue of ocean matters and fisheries are governed by the European Agreement. And therefore, it is important for us in dealing with ocean matters, we need to work strongly as a unit. We cannot go to negotiate with France as Dominica alone, or go to negotiate with France as St. Lucia alone. We need to have a regional platform and a regional mechanism to negotiate with France in respect to our oceans and the number of concerns which we have, common concerns which you have, issues of boundaries delimitation. I understand, yes, it has to do with our national legislation and national agreements, but the negotiations can be done as a regional body in order to optimize the benefits to our citizens. So your presence here in Dominica is critical. It's important for us to continue the dialogue, continue the engagement of each other, but we need to ensure that our citizens, I am concerned that our citizens are not appreciating the importance of the environment. You know, the wanton littering in our countries, you know, the felling of trees and indiscriminate felling of trees with nobody planting back trees and so forth. The pollution to our rivers and our beaches. This is why in Dominica we are going to take a very strong stance on these things. And we're not going to only strengthen legislation, but put mitigation systems in place to ensure that those who are following the law are brought to justice and brought swiftly to justice. This is why we'll be having a magistrate sitting to look specifically, among the other issues, on environmental matters. So we will see the issue of environmental matters taking center stage in respect to our justice system, to ensure that we send a clear message to people that by littering it is costing the country and it is impacting on the future of the country. In our concessions to both local and foreign investors, we will be putting a condition in respect to keeping your environment, your surrounding clean, and beautification, planting of trees and so forth. Waste management, those things must be at the center of the conditions and the receipt of concessions from the government of Dominica to draw awareness of the importance of the environment and our own responsibility to maintaining the same. So I am a strong advocate of the environment. I believe that it is important for us because as Minister of Finance, I can tell you the impact it is having on our financial system and our debt situation. And it is not dissimilar to the rest of us in the region. We all are going through the same challenges. And so you as ministers of the environment, let no one undervalue the importance of that portfolio. You know, I say that the environment portfolio has been one of the most important portfolios in the government system these days. because of the tremendous responsibility which you have now, because you play such an important role. 11 years ago or so thereabout, I addressed a PAHO conference in Washington, D.C. And I alerted the community of the possible impact on our health system that climate change could have. There were some who raised eyebrows and never made the connection, but we're seeing it today. We're seeing it today. And our economies are under threat because of the actions of man. And indeed, woman too. So we have to, we must have a collective response to the protection of the environment and impact of climate change. I want to finally thank Dr. Jules for the leadership that he's been providing to the OECS Commission. I've known Dr. Jules for a very long time. I read about him when he was part of providing guidance to the Grenadian Revolution as Permanent Secretary in Education. And we became very good friends when he was the Permanent Secretary of Education in St. Lucia, and I was then Minister for Education. And I believe he is an important resource to us in the OECS. And we have to value and recognize people who are making contributions to our economies and so forth. And he has remained here in the region, serving the region in many different capacities, and I want to publicly applaud his efforts. So I wish you well. I wish the meeting very well on the chairmanship of my friend Dr. Daru, and all of you wonderful ministers who are here. We welcome you, and please take some time to relax. I know how stressful this job is. Do not work too late. We have some hot springs in the valley. We can arrange at any time of day or night for you to go and get a soak. It relieves your stress, and it adds about 20 years to your life. I'm not sure whether in politics you really want to reach 100 or something, because when you're 50, as you see Obama is, you look like 80 or something. Politics adds 20 years every year to your life. But let us enjoy ourselves, while we discuss some very serious regional and international matters. Thank you, and God bless you.